Hello and welcome to Benney Babbes. That probably woke you up then. Oh, thanks for tuning in. If you are tuned in, if you haven't tuned in, why aren't you tuned in? That's what I'm asking. On the show tonight, we've got Mark Taylor, men's mental health advocate and walk leader and director of WMAT. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you very much indeed, Benny. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What is MWAT?
So MWAT it's just an acronym that we use to keep typing out men walking and talking all the time, because it is quite a mouthful. So men walking was started in the summer of 2021 by a chap called Dan Reed, who lives in Telford, and after a sort of a struggle with his own mental health and for many years struggled with anxiety, struggled with all sorts of different things. And he got to a point where it was like, something's got to change here, because, I cannot continue to live like this. He had a wife and a young daughter. And so he underwent therapy for, a good few months or more, which was like, for him, was sort of phase one. And then at the end of that, he then started doing some work with a men's coach called Lee Anderson, who's become a really good friend of ours. And towards the end of that journey with working with Lee, Dan was in a place where he sort of felt he wanted to do something to give back he just wanted to give back. That was his statement to Lee. And it was actually Lee's suggestion, why don't you start a men's walking group locally by you? So he did. And that was, like I said, that was sort of summer 21. And if we do a big skip forward, which we can go backwards over in time, tonight, you skip to today, and we've now got 34 groups running across the whole of the UK.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've got the figures on my screen, because I'm the numbers man for the organisation, for my sins. And I would say this year we've had over 300 men take part in our activities every single week across the whole of the country.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is an amazing achievement, because it's something that I know from my work myself, how much it's needed, and to be sort of helping that many people on a regular basis and getting them involved, and that's well done.
And
I know it's not easy to organise.
No, it's not. And so every single one of our groups that operate across the country, so everyone that's involved in the whole organisation, so we've got 4 directors, we've got 34 walk leaders, and then we've got, in the groups that are quite big, we've got like secondary walk leaders to kind of manage the size of the groups. But every single one of us are voluntary. So we're a completely voluntary organisation. We are a CIC as a company, which is a community interest company, for those that don't know. So we're a registered business, but we're, we nobody takes a wage. We're all completely we're all volunteers. And the way our walks evolve, or spring into life, if you want, is generally from an inquiry of some description. So we've got a very, very good website with loads of information about what we do, where we operate, and how people can get involved. And other than so generally, it generally comes from an email inquiry. So we've got a form on our website that men can go to if they're interested in starting a group in their city or town. So we will receive that email. It's usually either myself or Dan will respond to that email, and we try to arrange, in the first instance, we try to arrange a phone conversation. And that phone conversation generally goes along the lines of, hi, Mr. So-and-so, whatever his name is, thanks for your inquiry. Tell us a bit about yourself and why you want to start a group where you live. That then leads generally into some sort of a backstory. And in a vast majority, I'd say nearly in all of the conversations I've had anyway, there's been some kind of a mental health struggle, or something that's triggered them to think, right, it's my time to give back. It's my time to do something in the area where I live. So we will then, and it's also a chance to find out the suitability of that particular person, because there is a commitment involved to it. You know, it's not massive, so maybe 1 to 2 hours a week, absolute maximum, and that includes the running of the walk itself on whatever day of the week they do that, and then some promotional work out in the real world. You know, leaflets and speaking to different organisations to raise awareness in the area that they live, so that when their walk starts, there's a reasonable chance that they're not going to be on their own at that particular date and time. And that's kind of how the walks become and then evolve. Right.
So how did you personally, how did it sort of properly start for you?
So for me, in the summer of 2022, my sister at the time had a breast cancer diagnosis, and she was sort of coming out. Well, I think she'd finished her treatment and she'd got the all clear. So she tasked my brother and myself to basically get on a big long walk and raise some money, because we were having a charity fundraiser in that September. So I sat down and designed a punishing route for me and my brother. And we went off and did, I think we did like 36 miles in 18 hours across the Malvern Hills and all the way back to like the town where we were sort of from. During the training of that, a friend of mine was the similar kind of time was involved in an annual charity fundraiser for Men Walking and Talking. And they were doing, what they were doing was they were doing a 3 counties walk, like 30 miles a day for 3 days. So I made a donation to the organisation and my friend that was doing this walk, and kind of had a little look into it. Oh, that's an interesting organisation. I wonder whether is there a walk near me that I could take part in? So I inquired with my friend, and he came back and said, nope, the nearest one to you is like over an hour away. But knowing me, he knew my passion for mental health and all that kind of stuff around suicide and all these different things. And he said, you need to speak to this chap called Dan about whether you'd want to start one in your area. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, put us in touch. So we had that conversation, I think, maybe 2 weeks before my brother and I were doing this big long walk. We had a chat. We said we'd have another chat after we'd both done our big walking challenges, and we'd kind of see where we were. Yeah. So yeah, and that was kind of, I'd say, maybe mid-August that we had the final conversation. And I was like, yep, let's do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but let's do it. So we kind of set a date. I think it was about 3 weeks in maybe second week in September. And it was just a case of, send me some leaflets. I'll do a canvassing thing around Kenilworth where I live, and we'll see what happens. So on September the 8th, 2022, I sat in a car park in Kenilworth at 7 o'clock at night, thinking, right, who's going to turn up? And nobody turned up that first night. And then the second week I turned up, and one guy came, and then the third week, the same guy came, and then the fourth week, he came, and a friend of mine thought, I'll show a bit of support, so he came along. And the group's just kind of grown and grown from there. And I'd say now an average turnout on the Kenilworth walk is probably sort of low to mid-20s every single Thursday.
That's again, to have it on such a regular basis. I know there's sort of men's group here, but there's a few walking groups as well, and they seem to be busy on a regular basis.
Yeah, and so all of our walks, with the exception of 1 or 2, they all start at the same time, 7 p.m. Whether that's a Monday to Friday. We've got one walk in the area that starts they do a Sunday, because when the guy was doing his canvassing, he was getting a lot of feedback on the socials that maybe weekdays weren't going to be particularly good for lots and lots of people. And people started inquiring as to whether a Sunday was a possibility. So they spoke to me, and I was like, yeah, don't see why not. Let's give it a try. And he now runs a group on a Sunday, but all of our other groups, they run Monday to Friday. Well, on a day, Monday to Friday, and they all start at around 7 p.m. and they walk for 45 to 50 minutes, particularly this time of year because it's dark and the weather's not particularly great. But in the summer, you know, obviously we can walk further because it's lighter and the dry ground and the nice weather and it being light means that, you know, people want to stay out a bit longer and you can explore a little bit further. But the thing I always say about our groups is the walk aspect of it is it's almost an excuse just to get guys to get together, you know. And then the other really powerful aspect of what we do that's very different from sort of other groups where they'll sit in a room and they'll have a conversation is we're not, particularly as men, we're not sat face to face. We're stood shoulder to shoulder.
Shoulder to shoulder, yeah.
And it just makes conversations flow so much better because you haven't got that. Like some people can find it a little bit confrontational. Some people can find it a little bit unnerving, especially with a complete stranger. But if you're walking along,
I do walk and talk therapy for that reason. Having been on the other end, I know how intimidating it can be, and I know what being outside can do. And so, I do walk and talk. It's only sort of one-to-ones, but I feel that I get more out of them because, as you said,
in the traditional therapy setting,
it's and they feel that they get more out of it as well because they don't feel so pressured being, you know, just sat there expecting answers. You know, it's taking time out on the walk.
Yeah, and I think the outdoors has a huge part to play in that. Just being out in nature, just being out in the fresh air, it's instantly calming and instantly relaxing.
Yeah,
you know, and then there's that aspect that you're not face to face; you've just got someone stood next to you. Yeah,
and I did do it, and I find it. Yeah, if the conversations flow easier because, like you said, because they're relaxed and you know they feel more comfortable just being out in the open where usually they've shut themselves away.
Yeah, definitely. But no, so I think the growth of the whole organisation, particularly in the last 12 months, has just exploded. So this time last year, we had, I think, 14 groups on the books. And our average weekly attendance across those groups was probably, I don't know, maybe 80 to 90. And now today, we're at 34 walks and over 300 men every single week, you know? And that's just come from the groups themselves promoting what they do, posting their results every week, you know, with a selfie group photograph, and then pushing that across as many sort of local Facebook pages in their particular area as they can, and it just pushes and spreads and spreads. We've also this year we've had one of our groups in Somerset in Wells. They had an ITV film crew there last week to do a piece on them. We've got a BBC film crew coming to our walk in Warwick on Thursday night. There are discussions going on with a couple of other walks about sort of TV involvement. And I guess what we're kind of hoping is that at some point these TV companies are going to cotton on that, you know, this is a quite a sizable organisation, and then we would really love to get some, you know, big national, big exposure. You know, and it's which is that thing that we always talk about, that one day what we're doing, right place, right time, right person, and it could just explode.
Well, yeah, that's what being on Babbes should do for you now. Look, it's
you know, when I got the invite, I kind of messaged Dan and said, "Hey, this could be it, mate. This could be it." You know, it could be it.
So you've just been on a weekend walk now. Yesterday you were in Wales.
Yep. Yeah. So as I said, we've got 34 groups across the country now, and obviously the only contact that we have other than, I mean, I've got 4 walks quite close to me. So I know some of those guys, and I've our paths have crossed, and we've gotten involved in our walks. But we've got walks as far north as Penrith in Cumbria, and we've got them down, we've got 2 or 3 in Wales. We've got one in Merthyr. We've got one in, there's a walk in Merthyr. There's a walk in Penarth. I'm sure there's another one in Wales, but I'm having a blank moment. But we've got them all across the whole of the UK and in Wales. We don't have any in Scotland yet. But the only contact we have in the week is through the Walk Leaders Messenger chat group, where the guys will post their results, or they'll post if they're having a struggle with something or they need some advice and stuff. So that's the only contact that we've ever had. And a couple of years ago, one of the guys suggested, why don't we try and organise a walk and invite everybody from the whole organisation to come along and get involved. So get people from all over the country to come to this place, and we can all actually meet in person. Yeah. So we did a couple that year, and last year, for one reason or another, I think we only did maybe 1 or 2. And then we also try and have a big charity fundraising walking challenge event. So I mentioned the one in 22 where they did the big 90-mile thing. The following year, when I was involved in the organisation, we did Yorkshire Three Peaks. And then last year we did a 26-mile over like 6 peaks in the Shropshire Hills. So we try and do these. We try and do them monthly, but it's kind of up to the walk leaders of the areas if they want to host something. We're not going to force them to. If they want to do that, then fantastic, we'll support it. And then one of our other directors who lives over in Hereford, Ash, he suggested, this was last year, why don't we do instead of just the walk leaders and people that come on the walk, why don't we open it up to family and friends? Okay, so we tried it. And that was what we had yesterday down at the Four Waterfalls walk in Aberdare. Is it Aberdare?
Aberdare?
Yeah, I think it's Aberdare. Aberdare, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was where the walk. Is it?
That's where I'm from. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the big, it's quite a well-known it's called the Four Waterfalls walk.
Yeah, Bendarin.
Yeah, there you go. So that was the chosen route for yesterday, and it was a family and friends thing, and we had 27 people in total, which was made up mostly of. So there were 3 of our directors there, including myself, and then probably 13 or 14 guys from other different walks across the country, and some of those brought their partners, and there were, I think, 3 or 4 children there as well, and I think 3 dogs. So
it is a lovely walk.
That's great.
I used to do it regular when I was younger. All that area really, because it's on my doorstep. I would have, but it was quite, and I think because it's obviously been quite wet down that part of the world lately, the waterfalls were particularly spectacular. Yeah, they really were. Yeah. And so did you walk behind?
Quite a few did. I didn't, because I was determined. I've recently got into flying drones.
Right.
And I was determined I took both my drones along on the walk yesterday, and I've got a very so I've got a really my newest drone literally like takes off the palm of your hand. It's so small.
Oh,
and it's
wow,
really
I
good
like
for
that.
just doing like sort of video things, and you don't need a control system to use it. You just set it into a mode, it takes off from your hand, and if you've set it, for example, into follow mode, it locks onto you as a subject, and wherever you go, it follows.
Right. I want one.
I did that a couple of times at the first waterfall on some of the flat bits, and then as we got sort of deeper into the walk and down into the deeper into the valleys to the bigger waterfalls, I wanted to get my bigger drone up in the air. But every time we got to a waterfall, it was just raining a little bit too much for me to put the drone up, because as soon as you get any water droplets on the lens, then your footage is ruined.
Forget it. Yeah.
So forget it.
There's lots of mist as well because of the waterfall.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got to the last waterfall, the one you're talking about, where you can walk behind it, and it had stopped raining. So the guys were like, "Oh, you coming behind the waterfall?" And I'm like, "No, I've been waiting all day to put the drone up, so I've got to do that." So I spent probably 15, 20 minutes flying the drone like towards the waterfall and up in the air to get some good shots and stuff. So no, I didn't go behind, but quite a few did. Yeah, it looked, and there was some great photographs like from behind the water, which was pretty good. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got quite a few. Me and my son when he was little, standing there with it. But yeah, because it's so popular. I passed there this morning from the Gleneath side, and the amount of cars that were there this morning is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was cold. It didn't rain all day, but when I got back to the car park, it was absolutely rammed.
Yeah,
and that was sort of what time was that? 2 o'clock-ish, and there were people still, and there were so many people on the route yesterday as well. But it was extremely popular place, and that's in the bad weather. I can only imagine what it's like in the summer.
In the summer, it's crazy. It really is crazy.
I can well imagine. Yeah. But no, it was a very, very good day, and we've had I sent an email out earlier on, sort of just thanking everybody for coming along and taking part, and if they got any feedback. And we've had some good messages on the socials and lots of messages in the different chat groups saying how much people enjoyed it and they can't wait for the next one. And so it's really good. It was a really good day.
Oh, I wish I'd come now. I got a hangover from my day out.
Yeah,
you got bad cards and I got a hangover.
You're like bottomless brunch or 4 waterfalls walk.
Yeah, bottomless brunch.
There you go. All day long.
So obviously that's what your passion is really, because it to do it for for the reason that you do it, it is a passion project.
Yeah,
and you said it's not you don't make money from it. It's all sort of volunteered, which again is admirable, because knowing how much time that goes into things like this. I've been a volunteer of different organisations over the years, and it is. People shake their head and say, when you say, "Oh no, I'm a volunteer," they're like, "What? You're doing all this hard work for volunteering?" And sometimes we work harder in a volunteering jobs than we do in a real job.
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, like my day job for over 20 years is I'm an engineer. So I work with robotics and I work with like quite sort of intricate, interesting machinery and stuff. That's my day job, but this the thing with this is you get involved in it because you think it's a great thing to get involved with it. It's you want to help men overcome the stigma of not talking, of not showing emotion and all these different things. But when you physically see the impact that our groups have on individuals, and I do a presentation every so often to people that we have a companies inquire and they are interested in what we do, so I've got a full-blown presentation about what the organization does. And early on in one of my slides there's a statement at the bottom that really sparks conversation, and it is that I could hand on heart give you half a dozen names of men that if it weren't for their involvement in our organization, they would no longer be on this planet. And I'll just let that sit there for a few seconds, because that's the power of what we do at Men Walking and Talking. We have saved men's lives. It's that simple,
and it's that simple of what needs to be done is just having these conversations, and just is taking away the stigma from men talking. The days of stiff upper lip and stuff like it's we live in a different world, and if we do share our stories and we realize, hang on a minute, this story is very similar to my story. Oh my God, I thought I was the only person feeling that. And I think that when they feel that feeling there, that opens up so much for them, because it's like, I'm not alone. You understand where I'm coming from here. And it's probably the most, I'd say it's probably the most powerful tool that we have in our tool bag, is that shared experience. And I've had so many conversations, I've had so many messages where I've done a couple of 3
podcasts with various people, and I've done a bit of radio stuff and bits and bobs. And you get people coming back going, you know, I thought I was the only one. Because you do. When you're locked in that insular place and you're struggling with your mental health, you're so locked in. I know I did when I had my struggles. You think you're the only one in the world that's experiencing that. And then you meet somebody and they've got a similar story, and you're like, hang on a minute. Oh, okay. And then that's a game changer then.
It totally is. It totally takes the sting out of the tail, really, of, oh, you know, it is that sort of light bulb moment that comes on, and it's like, right,
yeah,
okay, yeah, let's, and as you said, then just sharing each other's stories with each other is just, yeah, enlightening for people.
It is. And then over the time the organization's been around, like we've gathered quite a good database, because none of us, with the exception of I think maybe 3 of our walk leaders, none of us are professional counselors or therapists or anything like that. We do have a few that are there. We've got a couple that are men's coaches. We've got one that is a therapist and does different things. But across the board, generally, we're just regular guys that give our time up in the week to run these groups. Obviously, as directors, we do a lot more than that in the background. But none of us are professionals. From time to time, we meet people that will reach out on a walk, and they're like, look, this walk is fantastic and I love being a part of it, but I need something more to help me with what I'm dealing with currently. What can you do? And it's like, right, not a problem. And we can signpost them off to, you know, different organizations that we've formed quite good sort of working relationships with, and we'll just put them in touch with this organization, and they go off and get the help that they need. And that's our part done. You know, that's all we then do, is pass them on to the professionals to get the help that they need. But then the other sort of interesting byproduct of our walks, and I know a lot of, if not all of our other walk leaders do something similar, is that they'll run a WhatsApp group for their walk. And I know from speaking to more than one of the walk leaders, and I run a WhatsApp group for the guys in Kenilworth, that and I've had these conversations with them multiple times, is again, they love the walk on a Thursday because it's great to see everybody and have a catch up, and occasionally we'll go to the pub for a pint afterwards, you know, like 3 or 4 of us or whatever. But the walk is there on a Thursday for an hour. The WhatsApp group is there the whole week,
all the time.
You know? And occasionally it gets used a bit, you know, sometimes a bit of funny stuff and people sharing their days and whatnot. But occasionally someone will put a message in that they're having a pretty shit day and they're struggling. And the amount of support and love that comes flying in within seconds, you go, that's massive. And when I realized that, because the reason I started the WhatsApp group was just so people could keep in touch in the week, so that you could say, oh, not going to make it tonight because of whatever, or running late, could you hang on for a couple of minutes? That was what I thought it would be. And within maybe a month, I quickly realized, no. This is like this is the WhatsApp extension of the physical walk, you know? And some of the guys will actually say that the WhatsApp group is more important to them than the physical walk.
It's because it's there every day. It's probably even if they don't say anything, seeing people talking and having that, knowing that they are there is gold to them.
That is, it's huge, you know. And then the other thing that I've not mentioned as well is that, as well as the physical in-person walks that we run across the country, like Monday to Friday and on a Sunday, we also host an online Zoom every Tuesday night. Same format as our walks, but on Zoom. And that is open to any men 18 and above to come along, and obviously they're sat in the privacy of their own home. And I've been hosting that meeting now for over 2 years. Not every Tuesday, between me and Dan. Sometimes I can't make it and he'll have to step in and different bobs. But that tends to be a bit more, or can be a bit more deep. the content in there can be a bit deeper because people have got the comfort that they're in their own home, so they tend to open up that little bit more. Or it might be a case that they don't have a physical walk anywhere near where they live, but they want to connect with like-minded men, so they can come along to the Zoom. And again, you know, there is absolutely no pressure to talk about how they're feeling or what's going on and that's the same on our walks. Like, there's no pressure at all to come along and talk about what's rattling around in your head or what you're going through. But if you want to talk about it, then you can, you know, completely confidential, totally safe space. You can come along and talk. And the same applies in the Zoom. The added, I guess you could call it a security blanket for some people in the Zoom, and I've seen this happen a number of times, is you don't have to have your camera on. You don't have to have your mic on. You don't even have to take part if you don't want to. You can just log into our Zoom, sit there with a cup of tea and listen to what goes on and go, right, that's not for me, and never come again. Or that is for me, I'm coming back next week. Camera off, microphone off. Week 3, same. Week 4, oh, hello, mate. They feel comfortable. They like what they hear. They're getting support, and then they take part. You know?
No, I think that's a really good idea, especially, you know, giving them that anonymity first. Let them, you know, feel comfortable enough to sort of get to know everyone. I think that's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the stories that we've had in that Zoom, they're heartbreaking, they're heartwarming, they're tragic, some of them, you know, like, and it's lovely to see occasionally. Not had one for a while, but last year there was one meeting in particular. I can't remember where the guy was from, but he came into the room and we all there was about 6 or 7 in the room, and he sat there and kind of went round a bit, and I came to this guy and I'm like, hi, you know, welcome to the group. Good to see you've come along. You don't have to take part. You can happily just kind of sit there. And then you saw the icon on the screen with the microphone turn on. And he's like, hi, guys, you know, my name's so-and-so. And straight away you could see he was struggling a bit. And he started talking about, he spent maybe 10 seconds talking. And then he spent about the next 60 seconds absolutely bawling his eyes out. And I mean proper sobbing, to the point where we kind of had to go, right, turn your camera off, turn your mic off, go and take yourself a few minutes, grab yourself a drink, have a walk around, and kind of come back when you're ready. So we carried on with the meeting. He went off, and sort of, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, you could see him come back onto camera, and he kind of sat there. So by this time, the meeting's getting close to kind of wrapping up, and I kind of went back to this guy, and I'm like, you know, how you doing? You okay? And you could, honestly, Benny, you could see a physical change in his gait, the way he was sitting. It was literally like, before he was crushed, he was down, and he was like, he was sat up tall, and he got a glass of water, and I was like, you know, how you doing? And he went, I cannot explain to you in words how I'm feeling right now. I like just unburdened and lighter, and I did not realize how much I needed to do that. And then he started apologizing for crying, and you're like, dude, never apologize. Don't ever apologize for crying. Never. You know, I'm really glad you came tonight. You know, you've obviously, you know, you needed to get some stuff off of your chest, which you've done. And he did, sorry, I did miss a bit. He did eventually come back on and kind of talk to us all about what had been going on and what had led him to kind of just absolutely break down. And we kind of said, you know, look, you know, we're here every Tuesday. We look forward to seeing you again. Never saw him again. You know, my takeaway from that was that he'd hit a limit, and he saw this opportunity to come along and press a valve, and that was what he did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He needed it. Well, that's one of the issues we have, really. When we just sort of, when we hold on to everything and everything's just going on in here, it makes no sense. When we say the words ourselves and they come out and we actually hear what we're saying, we know the answers to our problems most of the time. Yeah. But it's getting it out and saying it ourselves. It's so that is a brilliant
It is, and I think it's also that it's that old adage of a problem shared.
Yes,
It's no longer just rattling around in here.
yeah, it's
I've
no
now
longer
put it
in
out
there.
into the world. You've heard it, so you understand how I feel, and so do the other 6 people in the room. And
Yeah,
you're not necessarily going to fix it for me, but it's now no longer just rattling around inside my head. It's now been shared, you know?
yeah, and it does. It lightens the load. It gives them it gives them an opportunity to look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, it definitely does.
And you know, what you guys do is such an important service, really. And you know, I give you my heart for that. It's
Thank you.
you know,
Thank you.
because it is as you said, it is a commitment. It's not an easy thing, because taking on being a therapist myself, you know, taking on people's problems is it's hard, because we take them on ourselves sometimes, and you know, because we worry for people, and but that, I think that's, we need more of that in humanity, really, don't we?
Yeah, and it is interesting that, like, from time to time, even I struggle with what I do, the things I
Yeah,
hear, the conversations I have. Every now and again, I have to jump into the directors chat group that we've got and go, "Hey chaps, I'm struggling at the minute. What's going on?" And I've got that amazing support network with my fellow directors where I can just drop a quick message on, and then the next thing
yeah,
you know, the phone's ringing and we're having a chat. What's going on? Da 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 da. On, I think, maybe 1 or 2 occasions in the 2.5 or whatever it is years I've been with them, I have had to go, guys, I'm off comms for 24 hours tomorrow. Everything. I just need to step away. And they're like, yeah, no
yeah,
problem. Absolutely cool. You come back when you're ready. But for the most part, because I've got this great support network around me of like-minded people, it's absolutely fine, you know, and I can deal with
yeah.
the things that I hear and the support that I have to offer to people.
And again, having that with each other, that's a really strong bond you've all got.
Yeah, and they're,
So
you know, we've got. Sorry, go on, Benny.
no, don't you carry on, go on.
I was going to say, so another aspect of what we do, which is really sort of interesting how it's evolved, is 2 of our directors are ex-military, and we've got a lot of ex-military people that are involved in our walks.
Yeah,
You know, and that's a really big thing for them, because of, you know, we know it's well documented, you know, that people coming out of the military can have really big struggles because they don't necessarily get the support from that organization that they've spent their entire lives as a part of, and now all of a sudden they're like, ugh. So yeah, we've not attracted, but they've gravitated towards what we do, and as a part of that, and it was down to one of our directors that this kind of happened, is that as an organization, we signed the Armed Forces Covenant last year, which kind of, in the military world, it's a very huge document to sign. Like,
yeah.
and as an organization, we're vastly proud of, like, being invited to sign that. And it's just a document that sort of says, as an organization, we are, like, committed to supporting our and current serving personnel in any way that we possibly can, you know. And I know that, I think at the end of March, again, we're kind of evolving into a different kind of walk, where we're actually going to put on a veterans walk at the National Arboretum, and make a really big day of it for these kind of, you know, these ex personnel, these ex-military personnel, and like have a bit of a remembrance service and have a talk about, you know, what we do and how we can support, and then have a talk about the Armed Forces Covenant and what they do, etc. So there's a really kind of big military connection in a lot of aspects with what we do. Yeah, and I just thought about that and thought I better get that one out there before I forget about it.
So do you guys do you have a regular podcast that you run yourselves?
knew you were going to ask that. You can't see my notice board here, but I've got a notice board that I put all sorts of stuff on it. And in the top left-hand corner, we don't as an organisation know. But my brother, bless his soul, I don't know whether this will come onto the camera or not. My brother, bless his soul, he does a lot of voiceover work, and he upgraded his sound kit last year. And I've been talking, I mentioned this to you the other week. I've been talking for ages about wanting to do a podcast. And when I mentioned it to my brother, he was like, oh, and he went into his cupboard and he was like, there you go, mate. And I'm like, what's that? And he kind of gave me this really good professional microphone. And I'm like, and this is honestly now, this is last summer that this happened, right? Last summer. And I came home and on my notice board, I came up with this idea for a podcast series called Human Connections. And yeah, and that's as far as I've gotten with it. And I know, because I've had more than one conversation with various people about it, that the reason I haven't done it is because I'm scared. And that's
why we don't do most things, isn't it? Really,
simple as that.
But
it's an unknown.
But I can do it. You're doing it right now. You're having a conversation. Exactly. That's all it is. It's just having conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
I just been like, I started back last Sunday, and it's been 2 years nearly since I'd done one before. And again, it was more of, I enjoyed a first time round, went to do the second time round, and I got the jitters.
Really?
I really did. It's only the fact that I've started my podcast back up with Carlos Manueli that I've sort of got the bug again, and I've gone, oh, right, yeah, I remember now why I do it, because I get to meet people like yourself and have conversations that we don't, and that's what the whole podcast is about. And Human Connection, that's the same kind of thing, is talking to people, and you'd be surprised. First of all, I was like, who's going to come on here? I've got a list of people, and I'm going to try and. I'm like, right, okay. I can't talk. I can't do another month with you. And it's like, right, okay, yeah.
But it's interesting.
I think you're a natural.
Thank you. It's interesting that you've done it, but then you got the jitters, not before it. That's really interesting.
Well, I started it because during lockdown, now I'm more mental health. I know I'm a therapist and coach, but for the last 30 years I've been an entertainer. That's what I've done for a living. I've sung, I've done comedy, I've done telly and things like that. So I've always been sort of out there. Then lockdown happened, and I was like, wow, what am I going to do? I was driving myself crazy, and it's like, I'm not creative. So I started a podcast because I was doing a radio show, and so I started the podcast, and then I started another radio station locally called Jack's Radio, which was a bit of fun during lockdown. And so I done this and that at the same time. I was doing shows on there, and then that finished, and it sort of came to a sort of just stopped. And then I wanted to get back into it, but it was just a bit like, oh, who's going to come on? Who's going to, is it worth the hassle? And the thing is, it's no hassle, apart from trying to sort out my sound earlier. but I get that every time. The first way I got to do it, right, I'll do it this way today. That isn't working, and then I'll go to that. That'll work. So I got to gym, but I use StreamYard as my platform, and you just log everything in. As you see, you can have a theme tune, you can have overlays, and it's so easy to use. Just send somebody a link, they log in, and you're there.
Okay.
And all you need, you can do it off a mobile phone, as I'm doing now, because my computer wasn't working. But you know what I mean. So they don't need any technology themselves. It's such an easy platform to use.
Yeah. And is there a cost to that?
There is a free version, and now I think I pay £30, £33 a month. But then that gives me it stores all your shows as well, so you can also go into there and edit them for like TikTok and reels and things like that. So it does quite a lot for what it is, especially if you using it on a regular basis. It's worth that little investment.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. That's another.
Yeah.
That's another tick. That's another tick.
I know.
Get it sorted. Box.
You're probably on your guest list, that's all.
Well, obviously, absolutely. But no. So one of their directors has got a podcast. He's done 2 seasons of a podcast. It's called Ash Winter and Friends. Very, very good. Really, really good podcast series. I think he's done 2 series of that. And when he did the 2nd season, he kind of added in conjunction with Men Walking and Talking, because at the time he'd become a director and walk leader in Hereford. So yeah, I've had him in my ear more than once, like, come on, we need to get this off the ground. And now this, that's like divine intervention, I suppose, or call it what you will. It's just another thing that's going, right, it's there on the board. There's the microphone. You've got everything.
Yeah. She said it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
But what put me off for a long time, like I said, I'd done radio for years, and I'd always fancied podcasting, but I attempted to do it before, but you had to have a camera, and then you had the OV suite, and then you had to know what you were doing, how to do, and it just seems far too. I don't want to learn that. I just want to do a podcast. And then my son, during lockdown, introduced me to this, and he was like, you don't need that. You just log in. You don't need to download anything. I was like, what? Oh, right, okay. And off it went. It was literally a lifesaver for me during lockdown. Because it gave me an opportunity to talk to people and entertain them.
Oh, that's great. That's really, really good.
So at the end now, we usually do a song together. So you did get the lyrics, didn't you?
No.
What about the dance? Have we learned the moves?
Oh, damn it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Mark. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I know I'm gonna come on your podcast, and you'll be coming back on here again.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
So if people want to get hold of the organization, what's the website again?
www.menwalkingandtalking.co.uk. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, but the best way to go is to have a look at the website, because all the information is on there about. So there's an interactive map on there that's got pins in, like a Google map, that shows all of the walks that we've got in the country. Each individual walk has got its own section with a bio written by the walk leader about them and their reasons behind, wanting to start a walk, etc. We've got a merchandise section. I've got to get that plug in. So we sell hoodies, and we don't sell them. We've got like a third-party agent, but it's all on the website. So we've got like hoodies and caps and T-shirts and mugs and various different things. We're launching a new range of merchandise hopefully soon. What else is on there? So there's an events page on there for when we do the events, like the walk we did yesterday down in Wales.
Yeah.
But the website is the best place to go for kind of all of the information about what we do. So on the front page, there's the bit that we spoke about right at the start about how it was all started kind of by Dan. Right at the bottom of that front page, there's a section on Meet the Directors. So if anybody's interested, you can go in there and have a look about, my story and Ash's story and Andy's story and the different guys that do that. So I also manage the website as well. So I put all the content on there. That's been a real game changer for us, having that new. We had an older website, which was great to a purpose, to a point. Yeah. But as we grew, it needed to evolve, and it needed to have these different other aspects, and that's kind of where the website is now, and it's constantly evolving, and we're coming up with different new ideas. So we've got in fact, have you got a website? for what you do professionally?
I've got a blog site that I use, and I'm in the process of turning that now into my website.
Okay, so when you get that website up and running, let me know, and I'll add you into our kind of, we've got like a partner links section where we can kind of share people's professional lives and what they kind of do. So yeah, that's something that we're definitely looking at. And then obviously I'm going to have to put on a podcast section soon, because that's going to happen.
It is.
It's out there in the world. It's out there.
You've committed to it now.
That's it. It's for real. It's in the world. Thank you so much, Benny. Really appreciate you having me on, mate.
No, thank you as well for coming on. Thanks to everyone that's watching as well, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it later on. Thank you. I'm trying to think. I can't think who I got next. I left my list in the other room. Doesn't matter. I'll put an advert out. It'll be fine. It'll be secret. It's a secret guest. That's what it is. Secret guest.
Secret guest.
Right. So let me press these buttons. But you're saying no, that doesn't seem to be working. Why isn't it working? Oh, there we go. It's working now. Right. Goodbye, everyone. See you soon.